Saddam Hussein extends an olive branch to the new Clinton administration. A ceasefire effective at midnight tonight.
My view is that it is almost inconceivable that we can have good relations with Iraq with him there.
An exclusive interview with President-elect Clinton on the eve of his inauguration. And Eye on America. Tonight, upholding a tradition, a parade of inaugural symbols, and what they mean. This is the CBS Evening News. From Washington, D.C., site of the 52nd Presidential Inaugural, Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. In just a few hours, Bill Clinton will be sworn in as President of the United States, back there at the west front of the Capitol. Today, Saddam Hussein sent a signal that Iraq wants a fresh start with the new president. Our coverage begins with National Security Correspondent David Martin at the Defense Department.
You could see it coming, and today Saddam Hussein did it. Offered to make peace with the incoming Clinton administration without, of course, admitting he had been defeated by the outgoing Bush administration.
The Revolutionary Command Council has decided on a ceasefire as of the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning of 20 January 1993, Baghdad time, unless the other party did not stop firing.
That's midnight tonight Eastern Standard Time, and it applies to both the northern and southern no-fly zones. The southern zone has already fallen silent, with the Pentagon claiming to have knocked out the air defenses which threatened American warplanes.
There are a few radars still left, but the system doesn't function anymore as a radar or as an air defense network.
In the north, however, Iraqi anti-aircraft guns and American planes continued to exchange fire today.
In northern Iraq, we are now in a posture where we're hitting back at their air defense and anti-aircraft artillery sites that are shooting at coalition aircraft.
If Saddam makes good on his word, always a big if, the shooting in the north should stop in a matter of hours. But that alone will not be enough for the incoming Clinton administration.
What we need to do now is to see Iraq change its behavior. President Clinton said he was going to judge Iraq by what they do, and they're not in full compliance now with UN resolutions, and they must be.
One of those resolutions requires Iraq to permit this UN plane to carry weapons inspectors into Baghdad, flights which have been held up by Saddam's refusal to guarantee safe passage through Iraqi airspace. Late this afternoon, the UN Security Council went into closed session to consider Iraq's latest offer. And afterwards, the head of the inspection team said he now considers it safe to fly into Baghdad.
We hope that the present communication is the final one in this sad story, and that we now can go back to business, which is in the interest both of the United Nations and of Iraq.
President Bush used bombs and missiles to deliver his message to Saddam, but the only message Saddam seems to care about is the sound of President-elect Clinton taking the oath of office. Dan?
David Martin at the Pentagon, thanks. One of Iraq's government-controlled newspapers ran what it called an open letter to Mr. Clinton today. It urged him to, and I quote, save your country from a lot of problems which, if they remain, will bring your country down, unquote. CBS News correspondent Bob Simon is following the story in Iraq, and he joins us now from Baghdad. Bob?
Dan, President Bush bombing Iraq was good for Saddam Hussein. It directed anger towards Washington. It diverted people's attention from the hardships of their lives. President Clinton bombing Iraq would be a different story altogether. It would let people know that they face another 4 years of war, sanctions, and misery. Saddam Hussein's entire policy now will be directed at not giving Mr. Clinton the slightest pretext to continue the airstrikes. Now, Saddam made no pledge tonight to stop sending his planes over the no-fly zones. He did not pledge to stop moving his missiles around. But diplomats here are convinced he will stop all these provocative acts right now. What we heard tonight, Dan, were the opening bars of a new tune out of Baghdad, a soft, compliant song designed to convince the administration that it can deal with Saddam Hussein. I asked several people in Baghdad tonight whether they believed that peace was now at hand. Not surprisingly, I got the same short response. Inshallah, God willing. Dan?
Thanks, Bob Simon in Baghdad. Well, at midday tomorrow, Saddam Hussein officially becomes President Clinton's headache. In an exclusive CBS News 48 Hours interview at Blair House today, I asked Mr. Clinton whether U.S. relations with Iraq and Saddam are likely to improve anytime soon.
I think that depends largely on what he does and whether he shows more willingness to comply with the United Nations resolution. And of course, our allies have to maintain their resolve. I've been very encouraged by the support that we've received in these days from Britain and from France. I think that, you know, I'm also encouraged, frankly, by a lot of the work that was done, even when he was not being all that helpful, by the UN inspectors. You know, this facility that our planes hit over there day before yesterday was one that was uncovered by the inspection teams. So I think we've got to have access for those inspection teams. I mean, this guy cannot be building weapons of mass destruction there.
Is it your view, or is it not your view, that Saddam Hussein must go? That has been George Bush's view, that he must go. Is that your view?
My view is that it is almost inconceivable that we can have good relations with Iraq with him there, because he has given no indication that he is capable of being a reliable member of the community of nations. So in that sense, the President Bush's view is that he must go in order for Iraq to be part of the family of nations. But to be fair to President Bush, his view has not been that it is necessary for a war to take place to take him out.
Someone who's going to be in your administration said to me within the last 48 hours, I can't tell you what, but we're going to make some concentration on Bosnia in the first 24 to 48 hours of the new administration. Can you tell me what that, first of all, are you going to do that? What's that about? Are you anticipating some dramatic change in policy toward Bosnia?
I can't tell you there'll be a dramatic change within the first 2 days. I can tell you that let me make just 2 points to give you a sense of where I'm coming from on this. I realize that the military situation in Bosnia in terms of potential UN action is much more difficult than it is in Somalia. But this idea of ethnic cleansing is an idea that needs to be nipped in the bud. The world is now being engulfed in ancient ethnic and religious rivalries, and the legitimacy of ethnic cleansing cannot stand. Now, are there things we can do that we're not doing short of committing ground troops to Bosnia? Yes, there are. Second point I want to make is that, however, that both sides now are talking favorably about the proposal made by the Vance-Owen mission in Bosnia. And while they may be doing it for their own reasons and not entirely seriously, sometimes these things take on a life of their own. So we may be making progress on the peace front. And I want to make sure that whatever I do ultimately reinforces the idea that in the end there has to be a political solution there.
Is it fair or unfair to say that you're prepared to consider some military action? For example, your Defense Secretary-designate has spoken of the possibility of airstrikes against Serbian artillery positions, something like that, or do you rule that out?
It's fair to say that there are a lot of things short of the commitment of American ground forces that we have not ruled out.
When you and I sit down for an interview at this time next year, which I hope we can do, will all Americans be covered by some form of health insurance?
I don't think so, but I think a law will have been passed, if I have my way, which will require all Americans to be covered over a period of a couple of years as we'll phase it in. I don't think we can do it all at once. We'll have to phase it in.
Will gays and lesbians be allowed to be in the military service like anyone else?
As long as their behavior is consistent with military codes and requirements. That is, my opinion on this, as you know, is that people, by virtue of their status, should not be deprived of the right to serve in the military, but their conduct can still result in their being expelled or denied the right to serve.
You can see and hear more of this CBS News exclusive interview with Mr. Clinton tomorrow morning on CBS This Morning and tomorrow night on 48 Hours. On 48 Hours, the President-elect will talk about who he is, his friends from Arkansas, and his daughter's emotional departure from her lifetime home. That's tomorrow night on 48 Hours. Confirmation hearings today for a Clinton appointee featured a scolding and an apology. You will see that next when tonight's CBS Evening News continues from Washington, D.C.
Quality results depend on making the right investments. And at Ford Motor Company, that begins with our employees. We invest over $20 million each month in the continuing education and training of our employees, and they, in turn, teach us new things every day. The bottom line, increased motivation and an obsession with quality.
At Ford, an investment in education is an investment in quality.
Ford Motor Company, quality is job one. It's working.
At first it was just a cough, but by 3 o'clock it was the flu, and Lisa Halley knew enough to get home fast. To Theraflu, serious hot liquid medicine. Doctor recommended Theraflu. Your flu misery stops here.
If you give up AT&T quality and call from Phoenix to Dallas with someone else, here's your big savings. Leaving AT&T doesn't make a lot of sense.
The Senate will hold a special session tomorrow after President Clinton's inauguration to vote on his cabinet appointees. It was rough going today at confirmation hearings for one nominee. Rita Braver has a report.
It was supposed to be a triumphant occasion. The first woman nominated to be Attorney General, testifying before the Judiciary Committee, complete with new women members. But the focus on Zoe Baird was not on the woman who made it as a big-time corporate lawyer, but on the working mother who broke the law, hiring illegal aliens as a babysitter and driver to work in her house in Connecticut, failing to pay their Social Security and other taxes.
It was a violation of the law to hire undocumented workers. Our decision to hire the couple was wrong, and I deeply regret it.
Baird looked embarrassed as both Democrats and Republicans lectured her and her Yale law professor husband, who together made more than $500,000 last year.
There are tens of thousands, millions of Americans out there who have trouble taking care of their children with 1/50th the income that you and your husband have. And that they do not violate the law. You are aware of that, aren't you?
Yes.
You're sorry you did wrong?
Absolutely.
You're repentant for doing wrong?
Yes, sir.
You won't do it again?
You can be sure of that.
Baird is also under fire for positions she took as a lawyer for both General Electric and Aetna Insurance Corporation in favor of limiting damages individuals can collect from companies. Consumer advocate Ralph Nader.
Bill Clinton assured the American people that there was going to be a change in Washington. And for too many years, Washington has been controlled by big business and its lawyers. And so who does he appoint to head the Justice Department? A lawyer for General Electric and now Aetna.
But Baird's biggest problem is her record of employing illegal aliens. And though support for her is holding, and at this point confirmation is expected, one key Democratic source said that could change because calls from constituents are heavy and negative. Dan?
Rita Braver, thanks. A Justice Department report released today says FBI Director William Sessions has been reprimanded for possible ethics violations. The report says that Sessions has been ordered to pay the Treasury Department for personal expenses he improperly billed to the U.S. government. The FBI Director insists he did nothing wrong. Coming up next, Eye on America. Tonight, the man who plays the saxophone does pretty well with the cymbals, too.
All of these toilet bowl cleaners may clean, but not one of them disinfects. So you don't get your toilet totally clean unless you use Lysol toilet bowl cleaner. It easily reaches tough rust stains, and unlike those others, it disinfects for a deep down clean. Don't do part of the job. Get your toilet totally clean with Lysol toilet bowl cleaner.
For those who use Ecotrin for the relief of the minor aches and pains of arthritis, we've got a flash. You can wait hours for Ecotrin to start working, or with Genuine Bayer, you can wait just minutes. Genuine Bayer Aspirin, America's #1 aspirin.
Deep down, what's the dirtiest word in your bathroom? Lysol Basin Tub and Tile Cleaner has twice the cleaning power of the original formula to wipe out soap scum. And it even gets rid of germs. Get your bathroom deep down clean with Lysol Basin Tub and Tile Cleaner.
Everybody needs some money sometime. Everybody needs some cash.
fast.
Of Sue?
Remember Western Union? We send more money to more people in more places than anyone else, in minutes.
Thanks.
Something in my heart just told me my sometime is now.
Western Union, the fastest way to send money.
Would you like a backstage pass to the inauguration? Here's your invitation. 48 Hours is saving the best seat in the House for you Wednesday.
It will be a few hours yet before Bill Clinton gets down to the real business of the presidency. Until then, the focus here is on celebration and ceremony, beating the drums and sounding the symbolism. Mark Phillips reports tonight's Eye on America.
In a week full of questions about the new administration, the inaugural itself has posed some riddles of its own. Think of this as an inaugural quiz. When is a dance not just a dance? When it's a symbol? When is a walk not just a walk? When it's a symbol? When is a concert not just a concert? A fair not just a fair? A visit to a famous country house not just a visit? When there's symbols. Bill Clinton, the campaigner, lived by the symbolic gesture and seems determined to carry that right into the White House.
Every administration, to a degree, is theater. Has to be. This is the nature of public life in America, and this is the opening scene. We have very few ceremonies in American life, and the circus aspects of it are all very much worth it, in my view.
Right from the start here at Monticello, this inaugural has been based on symbolism, a parade of symbols, some might say a clash of symbols. Whatever, there is a danger in this. Any president who begins by evoking the memory of Jefferson and Lincoln invites comparison. Whatever ideals he might share with Jefferson, William Jefferson Clinton is quite a different political character.
They are very dissimilar personalities. Jefferson was shy and retiring. He didn't like public speaking at all. His principal achievements were private ones. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. He didn't speak it.
There's another danger in dusting off for contemporary use some of the marbled icons of history. Nothing was that simple, even then.
If you hearken back to Jefferson, you have to be careful what you're hearkening back to. Is it Jefferson, the apostle of religious liberty, or is it Jefferson, the man who spent his whole life complaining about slavery but never did anything about it, either as a man or as a president?
But this is purposeful political symbolism painted in broad strokes, where the torch gets passed musically from the 60-something to the 40-something crowd, with its own nostalgia. And as political theater, it's got a beat you can dance to.
Clinton wants to be a unifier. He wants to heal the gap between black and white in this country, between rich and poor, between different sections of the nation. And the Jefferson and Lincoln symbolisms are part of that.
At some point, though, the music stops.
If the administration works, all of that stuff works. He could walk down Pennsylvania Avenue on his hands, and everybody'd say that's great. But the minute he takes his hand off the Bible, he's judged in a different way than he's being judged today.
In fact, it's easy to forget that the only inaugural act the Constitution actually calls for involves 35 words and about 20 seconds.
I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
I, Harry S. Truman.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office
of the Presidency of the United States,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve,
protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
In the end, what counts is what gets said.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
This particular inaugural has already been shaken by the rumbling of American bombs falling far away. Very real symbolism that what counts is not the party, but the very daunting morning after. In Washington, I'm Mark Phillips for Eye on America.
Introducing Ford Taurus and the list. Quality, design, and safety are all at the top of our list, which is why we're at the top of this list. Ford Taurus, the best-selling car in America.
I try to ignore my sensitive teeth, but they hurt.
Sensodyne helps stop the pain that can make you stop brushing, could lead even to tooth loss. And now Sensodyne has fluoride.
Fluoride, great.
New Sensodyne helps stop the pain of sensitive teeth.
If you're like me and use bladder control protection, Johnson & Johnson has some great news for you. Free samples of new Serenity with Dry Layer Plus. To get your free sample pack, call today 1-800-342-3800. Serenity Guards now have a new blue layer that pulls in liquid quicker and holds it, so I feel drier. And you will too. It has odor protection, and that's fresher. So call for your free sample, 1-800-342-3800.
January, he was Mr. Right. February, Mr. Wrong. March, he's back. There's only one calling plan that adjusts with you. Off again, on again, never again. It's the most from Sprint. The most saves you on whomever you call the most each month. Even when it changes, it's automatic. Could be the easiest part of your relationship.
He's ready, the man who's about to become the 42nd President of the United States. In his own words, Bill Clinton, tomorrow on CBS This Morning with Harry Smith and Paula Zahn.
When Bill Clinton is sworn in tomorrow, he will be known to all as Mr. President. Many will seek to call him friend. But as correspondent Bob Fall tells us, few friends know Mr. Clinton better or longer than one man from Arkansas who has come here for the inauguration.
I'm going to the inauguration of my buddy.
As his buddy from Arkansas prepared to become the nation's next president, David Leopoulos packed up his family in Little Rock to start their cross-country trek to Washington.
The friends of Bill are coming.
They have been good friends for 37 years, high school buddies who horsed around in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and who played cutthroat games of touch football. So when Mr. Clinton was being pummeled and his campaign was reeling from allegations by Jennifer Flowers, a distressed Leopoulos paid his own way and drove all night to New Hampshire to tell anyone who'd listen about the Bill Clinton he knew.
We've been friends since we were little boys.
I knew that the people of New Hampshire would understand that if someone's had friends for that long, that they might think they're a pretty good person. So I had to help.
Leopoulos traveled the country for the campaign, partly because he never forgot how, from Oxford, Mr. Clinton had tracked down Leopoulos in Italy to console him after Leopoulos' mother died. When Leopoulos came back to Little Rock to market copying machines, the two men who first met on a fourth-grade playground renewed their friendship. And after the election, when Mr. Clinton relaxed with longtime friends, David Leopoulos first proposed a toast to the president-elect, then went shopping for the inaugural festivities.
I believe they fit.
Getting ready for a day which will be unforgettable for Mr. Clinton and for a friend from back home as well.
Now your friend is going to be president.
It's wonderful.
Once in Washington, the entire Leopoulos delegation was dazzled by the pre-inaugural celebration. But for David Leopoulos, this morning was even better. The pre-dawn chill outside Blair House, then along the tidal basin, finally up Pennsylvania Avenue, the bond forged years ago between two 8-year-olds remained as strong as ever.
I love it.
This is Bob Fall, CBS News.
Coming up next, President Bush waxing sentimental when the CBS Evening News continues from here in Washington.
Have you ever eaten fat-free foods? Have you? Because if you had, you'd know how bad they taste, and you wouldn't need me to tell you. But I'll try it. This is wonderful. I like this. It's crispy, it's light, and I know it's not fat-free.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes have always been fat-free.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes, fat-free?
Taste them again for the first time.
All right, so I was wrong. Sometimes I'm wrong.
If your business gives up the quality of AT&T Pro Watts and calls from Boston to Chicago with someone else, here's your big savings. Leaving AT&T doesn't make a lot of sense.
What do you smell?
I can't smell anything. My nose is clogged, yeah.
For fast relief, try Dristan 12-hour nasal spray. Now smell.
It's an orange. Dristan nasal spray just works incredibly fast.
Dristan, the face of relief today.
Flu season hits every year, and every year you're not prepared. You get the headache, the muscle ache, the sore throat, the fever. And I get the Advil.
For flu pains and even fever, one Advil is as effective as 2 regular-strength Tylenol, and it's gentler to your stomach than aspirin.
Hey, if I'm gonna get the flu, at least I know I can count on Advil.
Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
A kiss? No, I'm sorry. I don't think so.
Oh, no, please, no, baby, no.
Oh, not a good idea. Not now.
No, bad time.
Fight morning breath with Scope. Scope has 2 powerful ingredients that kill 90% of the bacteria that cause morning breath.
Your kiss is ready. Pucker up.
Right on the kisser.
Come on.
Kiss morning breath goodbye with Scope.
Give me that kiss.
President Bush had lunch one last time with Vice President Quayle today and invited a few close friends to join him for his final White House dinner. In London, the presidential succession has already happened, with none of the pageantry you might expect. President Bush was dragged off the podium at Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, and President-elect Clinton was just as unceremoniously installed. Back in this country, the real Mr. Clinton went to the neighborhood of make-believe for a children's inaugural special, appearing on cable television with a few of his well-wishers.
Well, I won't let anyone get out. I'm gonna let it shine. I won't let anyone.
And that's part of our world tonight. Stay with us on this CBS station for any late developments from Iraq and continuing coverage of the celebration that is the presidential inaugural. We'll be back on the air tomorrow morning at 10 Eastern Time to bring you live our special coverage of the swearing-in ceremonies, President Clinton's inaugural address, and the inaugural parade. Then a special 48 hours tomorrow night behind the scenes at the inauguration, and our CBS News exclusive interview with the new president. That's 48 hours. Here comes Mr. Clinton. Tomorrow night at 10, 9 Central Time. We hope you'll mark it. For now, Dan Rather reporting for the CBS Evening News from Washington. See you tomorrow. Good night.
CBS News.